So this past Sunday, we talked about the issue of adoption, and I told the story of Stephanie Fast. Stephanie was a child that was abandoned on the streets of Korea when she was very, very young. She was raised for several years by some older kids, and then at that point, when she was about 5 years old, some gentlemen took her and threw her in an abandoned building that was filled with rats. And these men took bets on how long it was going to take for the rats to kill her and eat her. So up to that point in her life then, from there forward, she had a very strong fear of men. So several years later, after she was rescued and taken to an orphanage, a Christian couple came by looking to adopt a Korean child. It was a missionary couple. When the couple came, Stephanie had been in the orphanage for a couple years, and she had no expectation at that point of ever having a family, ever feeling loved, ever having a home. She actually had taken on the role of helping the younger children, the babies, get prepared to be adopted. So when the Christian couple came, she kind of stayed back in the corner, especially because the husband was the largest man that she'd ever seen in her life, and she was very, very fearful of him for that reason. But as the wife was walking around looking at some of the younger children, the husband actually noticed her in a corner, came over to her, got down on his knees near her so that he would not be quite so imposing and intimidating, and he actually laid his hand on her shoulder. At that point, Stephanie said that she felt two very opposite feelings. One was immediate fear, terrified. Again, she was afraid of men in general, and this man was extremely large and very imposing to her. But the second thing that she felt, something that she said frightened her even more, was for the first time in her life she felt an overwhelming urge to be loved and to be protected by a father figure. Confused and not understanding what to do with these emotions, she did the only thing that she could think to do, and she spit right in the man's face. So the missionary couple leaves, and they come back the next day ready to inform the orphanage workers which child they intended to adopt. And to everyone's shock and surprise, they adopted the little girl that had spit in their face. Now the thing you need to know, again, even though she was about 8 years old at this time, she was about the size of a 4 or 5-year-old because lack of good nutrition had stunted her growth. Some of her hair had fallen out. She was dirty on the outside and dead on the inside, in her own words. Her clothes were ratty. She was in no way anything that you would expect someone to choose. Everybody wanted the sweet little cute babies, and not the 8-year-old that was a real mess. When they did adopt the child and they took her home, one of the things that was a struggle for her was learning how to assimilate into a family. But over time, as they continued to love her and nurture her, she began to change on the inside, and of course on the outside. She got good nutrition. She grew a little more. She had clean clothes. Her hair grew back into a full head of hair. But on the inside, even more, she changed. She got over some of her fears. Still had a lot of issues that she had to work through. It was a process. But the moral of the story is she got there in time. One of the things I feel that is so compelling about her story, and one of the reasons I really wanted to share that with my kids, is a lot of non-Christians and even a lot of Christians have this misconception that we somehow need to come to a place of beauty or acceptance for God to accept us. That it's like entering into college, that we have to get to a point where we achieve a certain score on an SAT or an ACT exam in order to be an acceptable candidate. That's total misconception, and actually it's exactly the opposite. It is not our change, it's no change in us that makes us acceptable to God. It is God accepting us and loving us that leads to us changing. The story of adoption is especially compelling because in the book of Romans chapter 8, And in Galatians chapter 4, as well as other miscellaneous places in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul actually compares Christ's acceptance, or God's acceptance of us through Christ's sacrifice on the cross as an adoption process, that we have been adopted and made co-heirs with Christ. So just wanted to share that message with you guys. Just wanted to have this recording as a reminder that you can view online anytime. As always, I want you to remember, for God so loved you that he sent his only son. And Diane, I love you too. God bless.